So, never in my life did I ever think or envision myself doing something like this, but I just finished watching a series of videos from Yetunde Vlogs. So I actually I'm subscribed to her family channel, the OMGs. If you're not subscribed to them, go check them out. They're awesome. Family to just follow, wholesome Christian content, these music, just very fun family. But anyway, so I was listening to two of her videos, just kind of talk about singleness and encouraging the brethren, I guess. And this weekend has been very interesting. So I was inspired by the Holy Spirit, I want to believe, yesterday to release a piece of work that I've been writing, like a blog that I've been writing for the longest time, after reading an article on Boundless website. So everything is just kind of like, there's just loads of things going on. But yeah, so I read this article about hope for the weary single, and I was inspired to write something from my perspective. And just listening to Yetunde Vlogs videos, I'll try and link it down below, but the first one, she spoke about just the reality of marriage and what that looks like, and being vulnerable, and the fact that you have to kind of expose yourself to some extent, like this person, see finish, pray that God see finish will not enter it, but just the idea that you really have to be vulnerable, and there's certain things about yourself that you don't necessarily know, and you learn that in marriage. Somebody else will notice that about you and bring that to your attention. And I was just like, wow, like, oh my goodness, right away I was like, God, I beg. Like, the prayer is that God bring the right person, and I think it kind of puts things in perspective. And then I started listening to another video that she did about still being single after the age of 30, and a lot of the things she said, I had to actually pause the video. I'm still listening to it. I'm going to go finish it. But as she was speaking, I was like, you know what, this is it, right? Just the idea of waiting. You understand that, okay, yes, you want to there's this pressure. I think the first thing is just being able to identify and recognize that there is a pressure in our culture. And as much as things are changing now, it still is so embedded in us that even if you're someone that works against it, you try and fight against it, as I thought I was, there's no way it doesn't get into your subconscious. Unconsciously, we take on these kind of expectations that, oh, by the age of, some people will say by the age of 25 I should be married, and maybe have had my first child, and all of these things. Like, these numbers, who created them? Where did they come from? Just social constructs just developed out of nowhere, right? So as she was talking, I was just like, wow, like, that is so true. And I think for me, it just made me start to be like, God, I thank you, in terms of like my family, just even seeing like conversations with like my brother, with my parents and my dad. Like, it was like, oh, nobody's rushing you. Especially one of my brothers, he's so adamant about, like, nobody they rush you, koya fara bale. And not even like like literally, like, just take your time. And I'm like, wow, it feels like I'm the one pressuring myself now more than they are, so that's one kind of angle to look at things. The second angle that I think about is just the fact that for so long you're brought up and be like, face your books, focus on this, and you kind of, that's also unconsciously become something that you just, I'm not saying that it's anything bad. When you're driven and you want to make sure that you succeed in life, that's not a bad thing. So you're just so focused on that I didn't necessarily think about those other things. And then I just stopped for a minute. I was like, whoa, like, what happened? You get to a stage. I think the first thing for me, realizing that I always just thought, oh, migrating from Nigeria to the UK. I grew up in the UK. I just thought everybody else was just on serious, getting into relationships. I don't do that, especially at that age, just doing all sorts of nonsense. I had friends for sure and things like that, like, but then as I got older and I migrated once again, and just being around other Nigerians that grew up in Nigeria and seeing that, oh, you had time for boyfriends. Hey, wait. I thought we were all the same. I thought we were all in the same school of thoughts. Like, we weren't gonna engage in this, so it's like a shock to your system, just kind of having to relearn that, oh wow, okay, some people were actually going out on dates and getting into relationships here and there and things like that. And then that now brings a certain level of just insecurity. I think for me personally, I struggled with that for the longest time. That's story for another day. And ended up in me getting into a situationship at the age of 22 with this young man that's till this day I've not even spoken about it, and I'm just like, just thank God that He's healed me. I've moved on and all of that. But it really had a chokehold on me for the longest time, and the reason being was that, you know, this was somebody I thought, okay, now, okay, you know, school is done. I did the right thing. I finished with my education. You know, that means that, you know, now surely I should find my person. I remember distinctively, like, so many all of these things. See, this is what I'm trying to say. Basically, every little thing in our minds, in our subconscious, is because it didn't just come out of anywhere. Something, someone, somewhere said something. We saw something. We were exposed to a certain thing that triggered a thought, a memory that stuck in our minds. So basically, my sixth form, my head of sixth form, Mr. Hall, I'll never forget. He's like, you know, some of you might end up finding your long-term partners, or your, you know, yeah, long-term partners in uni, right? So for me, I was like, I didn't find that. So I was like, okay, maybe once I'm done, that's when it's gonna happen. You know, this God, I thank you. The way you work things out, I focused, and now, you know, you're gonna reward me. That was the vibe I was on, you know. So I really stayed longer in that situationship than I needed to, right? So I think some of these unconscious kind of biases comes into and guide some of our behaviors and the way that we think and reason. So now, that being said, she Yetunde Vlogs, I'm going to post that video because I feel like everybody needs to go listen to it, and it really triggered a lot of thoughts in me. It's a little bit incoherent, and I don't know if I'm going to post this, but yeah. Anyways, so she ended up talking about a situation she had when she was 28, which is interestingly the age that I am right now. And she talked about, you know, she was introduced to this person, and then he asked her age, and she said 28, and he was like, you know, you're not getting any younger. And in my mind, I'm like, wow. I just thought back to 2 years ago when I was 26, and, you know, I was introduced to somebody, you know, connections, and I had a phone chat with this person. Mind you, this person was based in Nigeria, and, you know, as we were just talking, getting to know each other, you know, he was like, have you ever been in a relationship? I was like, no. Uncle was like, at 26? You know, like, something was wrong. Like, just the way he said it, like, it made me feel like something must be wrong with me. And I'm like, for somebody that has been a huge insecurity of mine for the longest time, even to the point that I started feeling like, you know, even amongst my friends here, like, they would get like little interest, people interested in them, or like part of our group, people like, I have this person for you, I have this person for you. Nobody ever has anybody for me. You know what I mean? You know, no one ever approaches you. That just makes you feel even more uglier and unwanted and rejected than you already feel. So, you know, obviously that didn't go anywhere, and I really did let him know that you can't say things like that, you know. And I wish him the best. You know, once in a while we chat here and there, not really anymore, but just something like that. And I'm like, that society is just so warped. Why do you feel that because I'm at a certain age and I've never been in a relationship, something is wrong with me? You know, obviously I have had to think this because that was an insecurity of mine for the longest time. And if I'm being honest, it still kind of is, right? So to some extent, right? But it just almost feels like, why is it that our society really harps on this idea that, if you're past a certain age and you've never ever been, not even talk about marriage, you've never ever been in a relationship, something is wrong with you. And I just try, I think I try to understand it. Okay, as a Christian, you know, maybe other Christians are like me, but I found out that no, everybody's like me. People are actually in a relationship. I guess I'm just the only one, you know, and maybe I'm not. But I really think it's a very important discourse that needs to happen, and that's something that we really need to expose a little bit more of. And even in my blog post that I wrote about, I spoke about the idea of, you know, you want to come out and give this wonderful testimony like, you know, God did it, I trusted him and he brought my man to God, my MOG to me, you know, God fearing and everything. But I'm here on the internet talking about something that I'm still trusting God for. You know what I mean? And I think sometimes we have to allow people to see this behind the scenes, see this not so pretty picture, right? Like, my hair was messed. I had to put a headscarf on to come out because I'm like, in case I decide, the Holy Spirit prompts me to post this, you know, who am I? We move as it tells us, solely Deo Gloria. That's how we do things here. But I really wanted to just pause and record this, even if it doesn't go out there, just for my own kind of sake, to look at it again. yeah, there's absolutely nothing wrong with you. If you are like me at this point, you've never been in a relationship and you're still hoping for marriage, it will happen in God's time. And I think we need to show more of the behind the scenes, the reality of this is what happens, so that other people out there can have hope, can have something to hold on to, and know that, there's stories of people where it works out like that, and then those of us that, we just have to learn to wait and trust God and build our character and, enjoy the season, because it's never gonna come back, yeah. So anyways, that's my TED talk for today. Toodles, bye.